She thought no one could survive her death world. Then the human walked in. The planet was called Verexa 9 by the few who had seen it and survived. It was known as a death world, a place where everything tried to kill you. The ground was made of sharp black stone that could cut through boots. The air was full of toxic clouds that burned the lungs. Storms carried lightning that hunted movement, and even the plants had teeth, and yet someone lived there. Her name was Zhora. Zhora was not like other aliens. She had silver blue skin, glowing yellow eyes, and long black claws that could tear metal. Her blood was thick and hot like lava. She did not fear the cold, the storms, or the beasts. She was the danger. She had never met anyone else. Not in years. Not since she was small. Zhora had been born on this planet. Her parents died when she was very young, killed by a beast that had no eyes but could hear your heartbeat. She survived. By hiding, by hunting, by becoming stronger than the planet itself. To her, survival was normal. Loneliness was normal. Pain was just part of the day. One day, Zhora stood on a cliff watching the sky. It was red with smoke and the air smelled like burning metal. She saw something strange, a bright light falling from the clouds. It was not lightning. It moved too slow. A ship. The ship was on fire. It crashed far away near the acid lakes. Zhora's heart beat faster. No one came to her world. No one could survive here. What fool had come now? She grabbed her bone blade and ran. The crash site was still burning when she arrived. The ship was small, covered in black carbon armor, half melted from the landing. Smoke rose from the engines. The ground around it was cracked and glowing. It was a miracle the ship hadn't exploded. Zhora moved slowly, silently. She smelled something, not alien. New. She climbed onto the wreck, claws digging into the metal. She heard movement inside, a hiss, a voice. Then the door burst open. Zhora leapt back, ready to fight, and then she saw him. It was a human. He was tall, with short brown hair and a damaged suit. His helmet was cracked. His face was bleeding. But what shocked Zhora the most was standing, breathing, alive. The human looked at her. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't scream. He just stared. "Hi," he said. Zhora blinked. No one had spoken to her in years. "You should be dead," she growled. The human laughed, even though blood ran down his lip. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Zhora didn't understand. How was he alive? The air was poison. The storms were deadly. The beasts would smell him. She had seen stronger creatures die in minutes, and yet here he was, bruised, burned, but alive. "What is your name?" she asked. The human winced, touching his side. "Kai." He stumbled and fell to one knee. Zhora didn't move. She just watched. Would he die now? Would he beg? But Kai didn't cry or panic. He pulled out a broken med kit, patched his wound, and looked up at her. "You gonna eat me?" he asked, smiling. Zhora didn't smile back. She didn't even know what a real smile was. But something about his face confused her. No fear, no anger, only curiosity. "No," she said at last. "I don't eat weak things." Kai laughed again. "Good, because I don't taste great." That night, Zhora made a fire under a cave far from the crash. She thought the human would be dead by morning. But when the sun rose, Kai was still breathing, still walking, still talking like this planet was just a bad camping trip. Zhora watched him carefully. He was slower than her, weaker, softer, but he had something she couldn't explain. He didn't give up. That scared her more than any beast. "You should not be alive," she said again. Kai looked at the red sky. "Maybe I was meant to find you." Zhora froze. No one had ever said something like that to her, not even her parents. She had believed she was the only one like her, the only living thing strong enough to survive this hell. But now, a human stood in front of her, bleeding and laughing, and Zhora began to wonder, Was she really the only Deathworlder? Zhora had scared everything she ever met. She had torn through the hides of acid beasts, shattered stone with her claws, and even roared a storm bird out of the sky. This planet respected only one thing: fear. And Zhora had learned how to give it, but this human didn't seem to know what fear was. Kai sat by her fire like it was a warm summer day, even though the ground boiled nearby. He cleaned his cracked armor with a sharp rock and hummed a strange tune. Zhora watched him from the shadows. Her golden eyes narrowed. Was he pretending? Or was he truly that stupid? She stepped closer, silent as death. "You don't belong here," she growled. Kai looked up, smiled, and tossed her a food bar. "Neither do you." She caught it out of instinct, but crushed it in her hand without eating. Her lips curled into a snarl. "I was born here." "Then I guess you're lucky," he said, stretching his bruised arms. "Your bones are strong, mine just hurt." Zhora walked around him slowly like a predator circling prey. "I could kill you," she whispered. "Right now, with one claw." Kai tilted his head. "Maybe, but you haven't." That made her pause. He was right. She had wanted to hurt him, to prove she was still the strongest thing alive, but something in his calm voice made her hesitate. She stepped closer, claws gleaming. "Still not afraid?" Kai raised an eyebrow. "Of you?" He looked into her eyes, not with anger, not even challenge, just honesty. "No, you don't want to kill me." Zhora growled and moved in, too fast to see, and bit him. Not a gentle bite, not a warning. She bit his shoulder hard, through the armor, down to the skin. Kai flinched, grunted, but didn't scream. He looked at her. "You bite hard," he said, wincing. She pulled back, shocked. His blood touched her lips. It tasted wrong, not alien, not beast, but real. Alive. Kai slowly reached up and touched the bite mark. His hand shook a little. "You done now?" Zhora stepped back. She didn't understand. He should have cried, run, fainted, fought, but he stayed, bleeding, breathing, looking at her like she was more than a monster. No one had ever done that. Later, as the wind screamed outside the cave, Zhora sat in silence. Kai leaned against the wall, wrapping his arm with strips of cloth. "Why aren't you angry?" she asked. "You're not the first thing that's bitten me." Zhora blinked. "What do you mean?" Kai smiled faintly. "I was a soldier. I've been shot, stabbed, burned, and now apparently bitten by a Deathworlder girl with fangs." He laughed softly, then winced. Zhora stared at the fire. For the first time in years, she felt strange. Guilt? No, it couldn't be. But maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to scare him away. That night, she asked a question she never thought she would. "Why did you come here?" Kai looked at her through tired eyes. "I was sent here to die." Zhora's heart froze. He wasn't an explorer, not a hunter. He was thrown here like trash. "Why?" she whispered. "Because I wouldn't kill a child," he said. "So they called me weak. A traitor." Zhora looked away. Her whole life, she thought strength meant survival. That kindness was weakness. That showing mercy was death. But this human, bitten, bleeding, banished, had been stronger than anyone she'd ever met. And for the first time, Zhora wasn't sure which of them was truly dangerous. For most of her life, Zhora had been the hunter. She had chased beasts across lava plains, fought shadow creatures in frozen caves, and stalked machines that burned forests just to find her. But now, something new was hunting her. And it wasn't hunting alone. It started when the sky changed. Zhora noticed it first. A strange, blinking light, far up, hidden in the red clouds. She froze. Kai didn't notice. He was too busy trying to fix a small broken drone from his crashed ship. But Zhora knew what she saw. "That's not lightning," she said. Kai stood up, alert. "You saw something?" Zhora didn't answer. She was already moving, fast, low to the ground. Her instincts screamed. Her claws dug into rock. She had seen those lights before. Scouts. Later that night they heard the first explosion. It wasn't natural. A metal pod smashed into the jungle, burning everything around it. Zhora and Kai watched from above as three tall figures stepped out, black-armored, silent, and cold. Zora's breath caught in her throat. "Killers," she whispered. "They're not here for me. They're here for you." Kai's face darkened. "Then they followed my emergency signal. I didn't mean to lead them here." Zhora felt anger rise. "You brought danger to my home." Kai looked at her, eyes steady. "I brought it to myself, but now we're both in it." They heard the scream of a beast in the distance. It ended too fast. The hunters were already close. They ran, through boiling swamps, under electric skies, past trees that spat acid. Zhora had never run from anything before, but this was different. These enemies didn't bleed. They didn't sleep. They calculated. At one point, Kai stopped to catch his breath. He bent down, coughing, weak. Zhora growled. "You're slowing me down." He looked up. "Then leave me." She didn't. She pulled his arm over her shoulder and kept moving. That confused her more than anything. Hours passed. Then something unexpected happened. Zhora was shot. A blast hit her side and knocked her off her feet. Her body rolled across hot stone. She hissed in pain. Kai turned back, eyes wide. She was down, bleeding. He didn't run. He charged toward her, firing a stolen pistol until the weapon overheated and exploded in his hand. He didn't stop. He grabbed Zhora and dragged her into a crack in the rocks, shielding her with his body as fire rained around them. When it finally stopped, Zhora looked up. She expected him to be dead. But he was alive, shaking, burned, breathing. He had protected her. She had been the hunter, the strong one, the Deathworlder. But now, she was the one saved. Later, as she cleaned the wound on her side, Zhora stared at him. "You should have run," she said. Kai shrugged, wincing. "I don't leave people behind." "You're strange," she muttered. He chuckled. "You bit me, and I still stayed. That should have been your first clue." Zhora almost smiled, but didn't instead. She said something she never thought she would. "If they're hunting you, they're hunting me now too." Kai met her eyes. "No," he said. "If they're hunting us, then they just made the biggest mistake of their lives." Zhora tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He stood, cracked his neck, and looked toward the storm. "I mean, we hit back next." Zhora's blood had once melted a war drone. A single drop had landed on its armor, and the metal sizzled like meat on fire. Even her enemies feared touching her, knowing a scratch from her claws could burn straight through bone. She had always believed she was indestructible. Until now. Until she saw Kai fall. It happened fast. They were running through a narrow canyon, chased by 2 hunter drones flying low. Zhora took the lead, leaping across broken rocks like a shadow. Behind her, Kai slipped. One of the drones fired. A blue pulse hit him in the back. He hit the ground, hard. Zhora spun around, eyes wide. The drone aimed again. Without thinking, she jumped. Her body slammed into the machine midair, claws ripping into its metal. The drone screeched and exploded. The second drone turned to escape, but Zhora landed on it too, tearing its head off in a single strike. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Zhora stood, panting. Then she turned, and saw Kai wasn't moving. She ran to him, dropped to her knees. His eyes were closed. His skin was pale. "No, no, not now," she whispered. Blood poured from his back, mixing with dust. His breath was weak, slow. Zhora's hands trembled. She did the only thing she could think of. She sliced her own palm, her burning, acid-like blood spilling, and pressed it against his wound. Her blood melted into his skin, sealing it. but not healing it. His body twitched in pain, and then stopped. Zhora screamed. The storm above cracked open with thunder. Rain fell, thick, black, and hot. Zhora sat beside him, broken. She had always survived by being the strongest, by burning, biting, tearing through the world. But now, the one thing she wanted to save was dying in her arms. Then something happened. Kai coughed. Zhora's eyes widened. He coughed again, turned slightly, and whispered, "Okay. Your blood is worse than battery acid." She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "You're alive?" "Barely," he mumbled. "What did you do to me?" "I gave you Deathworld blood," she said, voice low. "It should have killed you." He opened one eye. "Guess I'm tougher than I look." She helped him sit up slowly. He was still weak, still bleeding inside, but he was alive. Zhora looked down at her own cut, already closing. She hated how useless she felt. For once, her strength didn't fix things. Her power couldn't stop pain. Her blood could melt steel, but not save him. She sat beside him, silent. Kai leaned against her, exhausted. "You didn't have to come back for me," he whispered. She didn't answer, but she stayed. That night, she watched him sleep under the stars. His body shook with fever, but his spirit hadn't broken. Zhora understood something new. On this world, strength had always meant survive alone, but now she saw a different kind of strength. Survive together, and, for the first time in her life, Zhora was afraid of losing someone. Zhora had never been given a name by her people, not a real one. In her tribe's old language, she had only ever been called one thing: Varakra. It meant curse, beast, monster. She had believed that was all she ever was, until Kai called her something different. Kai was still weak. His body shook with fever, but his eyes were sharp, his words clear. Zhora watched over him in silence, sharpening her blade. "Why do you always look like you're ready to fight?" he asked softly. "Because everything I ever met either ran or attacked," she said. "And me? You confuse me." Kai smiled faintly. "That's the nicest thing you've ever said." She rolled her eyes but didn't deny it. They found shelter in the bones of an old alien wreck, one Zhora barely remembered crashing when she was small. Inside were broken walls, melted doors, and one working screen, barely glowing. Kai pressed, buttons with shaky hands. Suddenly a face appeared, her people. A recording. Old, but real. A general with silver armor and a cold voice. "If subject ZH7 is alive, avoid contact. Dangerous mutation. Classified as hostile. No rescue attempt. Do not retrieve." Zhora froze. Her claws dug into the wall. Her heart felt heavy. She was never forgotten. She was abandoned. Kai turned to her. "They left you here." She nodded once. "They said I was wrong. A mistake. That I shouldn't have lived." She expected Kai to go silent. Instead, he laughed. "Guess what? I've been called a mistake too." She looked at him surprised. "My commanders said I had too much heart. I cared too much about people. They said it made me weak." Zhora tilted her head. "They punished you for kindness?" Kai nodded. "And they punished you for strength." For a long moment, Zhora said nothing. Then she whispered something she had never said out loud. "I'm not like others. My blood, my strength, even my mind. I feel different." Kai looked at her, serious now. "That doesn't make you a monster." She shook her head. "To them it does." He sat up slowly, even through pain. "To me, it makes you extraordinary." Zhora blinked. No one had ever used a word like that for her. Not strong, not dangerous, not monster. Extraordinary. Something warm stirred in her chest. Something strange. She touched her bite scar on his shoulder. "I hurt you," she said. "And I still stayed," he replied. "That should tell you everything." Later, that night Zhora walked alone under the stars. The red sky cracked with lightning, but she wasn't afraid. She was thinking of her past, her people, the day she was left here to die, and the one person, not her kind, who stayed. Back at camp, Kai looked up as she returned. "Everything okay?" he asked. Zhora didn't answer. She simply sat down beside him, closer than before. He noticed, but said nothing. Then she finally spoke. "They called me a monster, but you didn't." Kai nodded. "Because you're not." She looked him straight in the eyes. "Then what am I?" Kai didn't hesitate. "You're my friend." And that word, more than any blade, cut deep into her soul. Zhora had claws, fangs, fire in her blood. But now, she had something new. Something no one could take from her. A name she had never known. Friend. Zhora always believed she was the strongest thing on this planet. She had claws that cut stone. She had outrun lightning, her blood melted metal. She had survived alone for years, but now she watched Kai, wounded, tired, and slow, build something no one ever had, a plan. Kai didn't fight like her. He didn't roar or leap or tear with his hands. He fought with thought, with patience, with fire in his eyes. From broken ship parts he built traps. He used acid vines to poison food the hunter drones might collect. He placed sharp stones in mud pits and marked them with alien symbols only Zhora could read. Zhora followed, watched, and learned. She once believed brute strength was all that mattered. Now, for the first time, she saw power in something else. One morning, a drone stepped into one of Kai's traps. It didn't explode. It screamed. Spikes shot up from the ground, tearing through its armor. The machine fell and twitched. Zhora stared. "You did that?" "With bones and vines." Kai wiped sweat from his face. "Didn't need claws for that." Zhora crouched beside the trap, her eyes full of quiet respect. "You made this world bleed," she said softly. Kai chuckled. "Guess I'm learning from the best." Later they rested inside an old crashed pod buried under a mountain ridge. Zhora sat silently, watching Kai patch up a map made of rock and soot. "You're not like others," she said. "Other humans? Other anything." Kai looked up. "Is that a compliment?" Zhora nodded slowly. "All this time? I thought I was the only Deathworlder." Kai tilted his head. "You're still stronger than me." "No," she said. "I was just used to pain. You fought it, that's harder." He smiled, but there was sadness behind it. "I don't win because I'm strong," he said. "I win because I have to." A storm came that night. It wasn't wind and rain this time. It was them, more ships, bigger ones. Zhora and Kai watched from a cliff as black dropships landed in the valley. Soldiers, not machines, stepped out. Zhora hissed. "They sent more." Kai's jaw tightened. "They want me dead, and now they'll kill you too." She looked at him. "No," she said. "They'll try." He stood beside her. "No more running," he said. Zhora's claws slid out. No more hiding. As the thunder rolled and the ground shook with boots and engines, Kai looked at her. "You ready?" Zhora grinned. "I was born ready." But deep down she wasn't smiling because of the fight. She was smiling because she wasn't alone anymore. In the end, it wasn't her claws or his weapons that made the hunters afraid. It was something else. Two Deathworlders. One born from fire, the other forged through pain, fighting as one. And in that moment, Zhora finally understood. She wasn't the deadliest thing on this planet. He was, not because of teeth, not because of blood, but because he never gave up. And that was the most terrifying strength of all. The soldiers came at dawn. Their boots shook the earth. Their ships blocked the sky. Their weapons glowed with power meant to erase cities. They came to end one man and clean up one mistake. But they didn't. No, that man wasn't alone anymore. Zhora stood at the edge of the broken cliff, the rising sun turning her silver skin to fire. Beside her, Kai locked the last trap into place. His eyes burned with quiet rage and his jaw was set like stone. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They had already decided this was the last time they would run. When the soldiers entered the valley, they expected screams. Instead, they were greeted by silence, and then the earth itself attacked them. Spikes from the mud, explosive vines, acid rain released from carved stones. Men screamed. Machines fell, and from the smoke walked Zhora, glowing eyes, claws out, her body lit by the flames behind her. Bullets bounced off her. Fire licked her skin like it missed her. She didn't stop. She was rage made flesh. She was the warning whispered in alien myths. She was the Deathworld. Behind her came Kai, wounded, limping, covered in ash. He carried no fancy weapons, only a blade made from a downed drone's core. But when he moved, the soldiers hesitated because he didn't fear them, because they saw what he'd become, a man who had survived the impossible, a man who had refused to die, a man who now fought beside a monster and called her friend. Together, they tore through the invaders like shadows through light. The last commander standing screamed into his comms, "It's not a girl. It's not a man. It's a force of nature." But no one answered, because the nightmare had already swallowed them. By the time the sky cleared, the ships were dust, the soldiers gone, and the valley quiet again. Zhora sat on a rock, covered in blood that wasn't hers. Kai sat beside her, breathing heavy, a grin on his bruised face. "We lived," he said. "For now," she replied. He laughed. "You're still not the optimistic one, huh?" Zhora looked at him. "No," she said softly. "I just know the galaxy won't like what we've become." Kai raised a brow. "And what's that?" She smiled for the first time. "A myth. Somewhere across the stars, their names would be feared. Not as monsters, not as mistakes, but as the ones who stood against death and made it bleed. Together, they became more than survivors. They became the thing every empire whispered about in the dark. Two Deathworlders, one bond, one war cry, and the universe would never sleep easy again.